In the busy city of London, where cars move slowly through narrow streets and people walk quickly to reach their homes, there stands a very special building. This building is St. Paul's Cathedral. It is old and grand and beautiful. The cathedral has been standing in the same place for many hundreds of years. Its great white stone walls rise high into the sky like a mountain made by human hands. At the very top sits a magnificent dome that looks like a giant upside-down bowl covered in golden light when the sun shines upon it. The cathedral is not alone on its street. Around it stand other buildings. Some are shops where people buy things they need. Some are offices where people work during the day. Some are small cafes where people drink tea and eat warm food. But none of these buildings are quite like St. Paul's Cathedral. There is something magical about this place that makes it different from all the others. Every day as the sun begins to set in the western sky, something wonderful happens at the cathedral. The evening bells begin to ring. These are not ordinary bells. They are huge bells made of bronze that hang high up in the bell towers. When they ring, their deep voices can be heard for miles around the city. The sound travels over rooftops and through open windows. It travels down busy streets and into quiet parks. The bells seem to tell everyone in London that the day is ending and the peaceful evening is beginning. Deep inside the thick stone walls of the cathedral, there is a secret world that most people never see. Hidden between the great stones and tucked away in small spaces are tiny homes. In one of these tiny homes lives a small brown mouse. Her name is Luna. She is not an ordinary mouse. Luna has soft brown fur that looks like chocolate in candlelight. Her eyes are bright and round and full of kindness. Her whiskers are long and fine and they twitch when she is curious about something. Her ears are perfectly shaped and they can hear the smallest sounds from far away. Luna has made her home in a cozy little space behind one of the great stone pillars inside the cathedral. She has collected soft things to make her nest comfortable. There are pieces of red velvet that once fell from old cushions. There are tiny scraps of paper with beautiful writing on them that have floated down from high places. There are bits of colored thread and small feathers that birds have left behind. All of these things together make Luna's nest the warmest and most comfortable place a small mouse could want. Luna is very different from other mice. While most mice are afraid of big spaces and loud sounds, Luna loves the cathedral. She loves the way the light comes through the tall colored windows in the morning. She loves the way voices sound when they echo in the great empty space during the day. She loves the smell of old wood and stone and candles that have burned for many years. Most of all, she loves the feeling that this place holds something special and magical that she cannot quite understand but can always feel. Every evening when the bells begin to ring, Luna knows it is time to wake up from her afternoon nap. She stretches her tiny paws and yawns a small mouse yawn. She cleans her whiskers with her paws and smooths down her soft brown fur. Then she pokes her little head out of her nest to listen to the beautiful sound of the evening bells. Tonight is different from other nights. As Luna listens to the bells, she feels something new in the air. There is a strange tingling feeling that makes her whiskers twitch more than usual. The sound of the bells seems to carry something extra with it. It is as if the bells are not just marking the end of the day, but are announcing that something wonderful is about to happen. Luna decides she must investigate this feeling. She leaves her warm nest and begins to make her way through the secret passages that only she knows about. These passages run between the walls and behind the great pillars. They lead up and down and around the cathedral like a maze made just for small creatures. Luna has explored these passages many times before, but tonight they seem different too. The stones feel warmer under her tiny paws. The air smells sweeter and cleaner. As Luna moves through her secret world inside the cathedral, she can hear the bells ringing above her. Each bell has its own voice. The largest bell has a deep voice that rumbles like distant thunder. The smaller bells have higher voices that sing like birds in the morning. Together they create a song that fills the entire cathedral with beautiful sound. The passage Luna is following leads to one of her favorite places. It is a small opening behind a carved stone angel where she can look out into the main part of the cathedral. From this spot, she can see almost everything. She can see the long rows of wooden seats where people sit during services. She can see the tall pillars that hold up the roof. She can see the beautiful windows that tell stories in colored glass. Most importantly, she can see the great dome, high above everything else. As Luna reaches her viewing spot, she stops and stares in wonder. Something amazing is happening. The inside of the cathedral is beginning to glow with a soft golden light. This light is not coming from candles or electric lamps. It seems to be coming from the stones themselves. The light starts as just a gentle shimmer like heat waves rising from warm ground on a summer day. But slowly it grows stronger and more beautiful. Luna has never seen anything like this before. The glow makes everything in the cathedral look magical. The wooden seats seem to shine like they are made of precious wood from fairy tale forests. The stone pillars look like they are carved from golden marble. The windows seem to sparkle with their own inner light. Even the air itself seems to shimmer and dance. The feeling that something wonderful is about to happen grows stronger in Luna's heart. She sits perfectly still and watches as the mysterious twilight glow continues to spread through her beloved cathedral home. Luna sat very still in her secret hiding place and watched the golden glow grow stronger and more beautiful. The light was unlike anything she had ever seen before. It did not flicker like candlelight or shine harshly like electric bulbs. Instead, it moved and flowed like honey poured from a jar. The glow seemed to have a life of its own as it spread across the cathedral walls and ceiling. The little mouse pressed her nose against the cool stone and stared in amazement. The light was starting to do something very strange and wonderful. It was not just covering the surfaces of things anymore. Now it was beginning to form shapes and patterns in the air itself. Luna could see thin threads of golden light weaving between the great pillars like invisible spiders spinning webs made of sunshine. These threads of light danced and moved in ways that made Luna feel happy and peaceful at the same time. Some threads spiraled up the tall columns like ribbons wrapping around birthday presents. Other threads stretched from one side of the cathedral to the other like bridges made of pure light. Still others gathered together in small groups and pulsed gently like the heartbeat of some enormous gentle creature. As Luna watched, she noticed that the threads were not random or wild. They seemed to follow a pattern that she could almost understand, but not quite. It was like listening to music in a language she did not know, but still finding it beautiful and meaningful. The threads moved together in harmony, creating a dance of light that filled the entire space of the cathedral with wonder. The glow was getting brighter now, but not in a way that hurt her eyes. It was the kind of brightness that made everything look more beautiful and more real than it had before. The colors in the stained glass windows became deeper and richer. The carved faces of stone angels seemed to smile more kindly. Even the dust particles floating in the air looked like tiny stars drifting through space. Luna felt drawn to get a better look at this magical display. She left her hiding place and began to make her way along the narrow ledges that ran behind the pillars. Her small claws made tiny clicking sounds on the stone, but the sound seemed to blend perfectly with the gentle humming noise that the light itself was making. She had not noticed the humming before, but now she could hear it clearly. It was soft and low and comforting, like the sound a mother might make while rocking a baby to sleep. As Luna moved closer to the center of the cathedral, the glow became even more amazing. She could see that the light was not just golden anymore. Now it contained many colors that shifted and changed like oil on water in sunlight. There were soft blues like the sky just before dawn. There were gentle greens like new grass growing in spring. There were warm pinks like the inside of seashells. All these colors flowed together in the golden base of the glow, creating something more beautiful than any rainbow. The threads of light were becoming more complex too. Luna could see that they were forming shapes that looked almost like letters or symbols, but not quite like any writing she had ever seen. The shapes appeared and disappeared and changed into new shapes as she watched. Sometimes they looked like flowers blooming and fading. Sometimes they looked like birds flying in formation. Sometimes they looked like waves rolling onto a peaceful shore. Luna found a comfortable spot on a wide stone ledge where she could sit and observe everything that was happening. From this new position, she could see that the most beautiful part of the light show was taking place around the great dome at the very top of the cathedral. The dome itself was glowing like a giant pearl lit from within. Around it, The threads of light were gathering into what looked like a crown made of pure radiance. The crown of light slowly rotated above the dome, casting moving patterns of brightness and shadow on all the surfaces below. As it turned, it seemed to be spreading the magical glow throughout the entire cathedral, making sure that every corner and every hidden space received its share of the wonderful illumination. Luna was so fascinated by the crown of light that she almost did not notice the soft sound of wings beating nearby. She turned her head and saw a large bird landing gracefully on a stone ledge not far from where she was sitting. The bird was a pigeon with beautiful gray and white feathers that seemed to shimmer in the magical glow. His feathers were not ordinary gray and white, though. The glow made them look silver and pearl and soft gold all at the same time. The pigeon was clearly very old and very wise. Luna could tell this from the way he moved with careful dignity and from the calm intelligence in his bright dark eyes. His eyes reflected the magical light like two small mirrors, but they also held something else. They held knowledge and understanding and a kind of gentle humor that made Luna feel immediately comfortable in his presence. The old pigeon looked at Luna with interest, but not surprise. It was clear that he had been watching her for some time, and had decided that she was someone worth talking to. He settled himself comfortably on his perch and ruffled his feathers once before speaking. "Good evening, little mouse," the pigeon said in a voice that was soft and musical. His words seemed to blend with the humming sound of the magical glow. "I see that you have discovered our evening light show. My name is Nimbus, and I have been living in and around this cathedral for more years than I can count." Luna was delighted to meet someone else who belonged to the cathedral family. She had seen other creatures from time to time, but had never had a proper conversation with any of them. "Hello, Nimbus," she replied in her small, clear voice. "My name is Luna, and I live in the walls of the cathedral. I have never seen anything as beautiful as this glow before. What is it? And why does it happen?" Nimbus smiled in the way that birds smile by tilting their heads and brightening their eyes. He seemed pleased by Luna's question, and happy to have someone to share his knowledge. "The glow you see is very special indeed, little Luna," he began. "It happens every evening when the day workers have gone home and the cathedral becomes quiet and peaceful again. The building itself remembers all the prayers and hopes and peaceful thoughts that have filled this space for hundreds of years. When evening comes and the world grows still, all of that stored peace and love becomes visible as this beautiful light." Luna listened carefully to everything that Nimbus told her about the magical twilight glow. His explanation made perfect sense to her small mouse heart. Of course, a place as old and special as the cathedral would collect all the good feelings and peaceful thoughts that people brought there. Of course, all that goodness would have to go somewhere and become something beautiful. As they talked, Luna noticed that the glow was doing something new. It was no longer staying inside the cathedral walls. Thin streams of golden light were beginning to flow out through the tall windows like gentle rivers of brightness. The light moved slowly and carefully, as if it did not want to disturb anything in the world outside. Nimbus saw Luna watching the light streams with fascination. "Would you like to see where the glow goes when it leaves the cathedral?" he asked. "There is something very special happening in the gardens tonight, and I think you would enjoy seeing it." Luna had never been outside the cathedral at night before. She had looked through windows many times and had seen the gardens during the day, but she had always felt too small and nervous to venture out into the big world beyond her stone walls. Tonight felt different, though. With Nimbus as her guide and the magical glow lighting their way, she felt brave enough to explore. The two friends made their way to a small door that led from the cathedral into the gardens. This door was hardly ever used, and most people did not even know it existed. Nimbus knew all the secret entrances and exits from his many years of living at the cathedral. He pushed the door open with his wing and gestured for Luna to follow him outside. The first thing Luna noticed when she stepped into the garden was how warm and comfortable the night air felt. Usually evening air was cool and sometimes chilly, but tonight it felt like a gentle hug wrapping around her small body. The second thing she noticed was that the twilight glow was everywhere in the garden. It flowed along the pathways like luminous streams. It pooled around the bases of trees like puddles of liquid starlight. It danced between the leaves of bushes like fireflies made of pure peace. The garden itself was more beautiful than Luna had ever imagined. During the day when she glimpsed it through windows, it looked nice but ordinary. Now, in the magical glow of evening, it looked like a place from the most wonderful dream. The grass seemed softer and greener. The flowers looked larger and more colorful. Even the old stone benches appeared to be carved from precious materials that sparkled in the gentle light. Luna followed Nimbus down a winding path made of smooth stones. Each stone they stepped on seemed to glow a little brighter for a moment, as if it was happy to feel their small footsteps. The path led them deeper into the garden past flower beds that were doing something very strange and wonderful. "Look closely at the flowers, Luna," Nimbus said softly. "Tell me what you see." Luna looked at the flower beds and gasped in amazement. During the day, flowers opened their petals to catch sunlight and closed them at night to rest. But these flowers were doing the opposite. The ones that had been closed and sleeping when the sun went down were now opening their petals wide. As they opened, Luna could see that they were not ordinary flowers anymore. Their petals seemed to be made of the same gentle light that filled the cathedral. Some glowed with soft white radiance like tiny moons. Others shone with pale blue light like pieces of captured sky. Still others gleamed with gentle pink and yellow hues like sunrise colors frozen in flower form. "These are dream flowers," Nimbus explained as they walked among the glowing blooms. "They only appear when the twilight glow is strongest. They bloom with all the peaceful dreams and happy thoughts that people have had in this place over the years. Each flower holds a different kind of good dream." Luna reached out one tiny paw to touch a flower that glowed with the softest lavender light. The moment her paw made contact with the petal, she felt a wonderful sensation flow through her entire body. It was like being wrapped in the most comfortable blanket, while listening to the most beautiful music, while smelling the most delicious food all at the same time. The feeling lasted only a moment, but it left her feeling happier and more content than she had ever felt before. As they continued walking through the garden, Luna and Nimbus came to the most amazing sight of all. In the center of the garden stood an old stone fountain. Luna had seen this fountain through windows many times before. During the day it was pretty, but not particularly special. Now in the twilight glow, it had become something magical beyond belief. The water in the fountain was no longer just water. It had become liquid light that moved and flowed and splashed in patterns too beautiful to describe. Each drop that fell from the fountain's carved stone decorations looked like a tiny star falling from heaven. When the drops hit the pool below, they created ripples of pure brightness that spread outward in perfect circles of gold and silver and crystal-clear radiance. But the most amazing thing about the fountain was the sound it made. Luna had expected to hear the usual splashing and gurgling of water moving over stone. Instead, she heard music. The fountain was singing the most beautiful song she had ever heard. It was not a song with words, but rather a melody made of pure emotion. The song spoke of peace and rest and comfort and love. It spoke of all the good things in the world and all the reasons to feel safe and happy. Luna sat down on the edge of the fountain and let her tiny paws trail in the glowing water. The liquid light felt warm and silky against her fur. Each small wave that lapped against her paws seemed to carry away any worry or fear she might have had hiding in her heart. She felt completely and perfectly at peace. Nimbus perched on the fountain's decorative edge beside her and spread one wing protectively over his small friend. The twilight glow surrounded them both like a cocoon of gentleness and safety. In this magical garden filled with dream flowers and singing fountains and streams of liquid starlight, Luna felt that she had discovered the most wonderful secret in the entire world. After spending time by the magical fountain in the garden, Luna and Nimbus decided to return inside the cathedral. The twilight glow had grown even more beautiful while they were outside. Now it seemed to pulse gently like a giant heart made of pure light. Luna could feel the rhythm of this pulsing in her own small chest. It made her feel connected to something much larger and more wonderful than herself. As they walked back through the garden toward the cathedral entrance, Luna noticed that the night sky above them had changed. When they first came outside, there had been only a few stars visible in the darkening sky. Now the heavens were filled with countless stars that twinkled and sparkled like diamonds scattered across dark blue velvet. These stars seemed unusually bright tonight, and Luna wondered if they too were affected by the cathedral's magical glow. Nimbus led Luna through the small door and back into the main part of the cathedral. The moment they stepped inside, Luna gasped in wonder. The twilight glow had transformed the interior space into something beyond her wildest imagination. The threads of light she had seen earlier were still there, but now they had been joined by something even more spectacular. Beams of pure starlight were streaming down through the cathedral's tall windows. These beams were different from ordinary starlight. They were thick and visible and full of color. Some beams were silver-white like moonlight on fresh snow. Others were pale gold like the first light of dawn. Still others shimmered with soft blues and greens and purples like the northern lights that dance in faraway skies. But the most amazing thing about these starlight beams was what they were doing. As each beam touched the ancient stones of the cathedral walls and floor, it began to sing. The singing was not like human voices or bird songs. It was something much more pure and beautiful. Each beam had its own voice and its own song, but the songs blended together in perfect harmony. The largest starlight beam came through the great window behind the altar. Its voice was deep and rich like the sound of distant thunder rolling across summer hills. Smaller beams came through the side windows, and their voices were higher and sweeter like wind chimes touched by gentle breezes. The tiniest beams that squeezed through small openings high up near the ceiling had voices like silver bells ringing far away. Together, all these starlight voices created what Luna could only think of as a choir made of pure light and sound. The choir sang without words, but Luna understood every note. The song spoke of peace that lasted forever. It spoke of love that never ended. It spoke of hope that could never be destroyed. It spoke of all the most beautiful things in existence coming together in one perfect moment of harmony. Luna and Nimbus stood in the center of the cathedral and let the starlight choir wash over them like warm rain made of music. Luna felt tears of happiness gathering in her small bright eyes. She had never known that such beauty could exist in the world. She felt as if her heart might burst from trying to hold so much wonder and joy at the same time. As they listened to the celestial music, Luna noticed movement in the shadows at the edges of the cathedral. Other creatures were emerging from their hiding places, drawn by the incredible beauty of the starlight choir. A large owl with soft brown and cream-colored feathers glided down from somewhere high up in the bell tower. He landed gracefully on the back of a wooden pew near where Luna and Nimbus were standing. "Good evening, friends," the owl said in a voice like velvet being stirred by gentle hands. "My name is Oliver, and I have been listening to tonight's concert from my perch in the tower. This is one of the most beautiful starlight choirs I have heard in many years." Oliver's large round eyes reflected the starlight beams like two perfect mirrors. His feathers seemed to glow with their own soft inner light, as if he had absorbed some of the cathedral's magic during his long residence there. Luna thought he was the most dignified and wise-looking creature she had ever seen. Soon after Oliver appeared, another friend joined their small gathering. A sleek gray cat stepped out from behind one of the great pillars where he had been sitting in quiet meditation. The cat moved with perfect grace and silence, as if his paws barely touched the glowing stone floor. His gray fur looked silver in the starlight, and his green eyes sparkled with intelligence and kindness. "Hello, everyone," the cat said in a voice that was soft and calm like still water on a peaceful lake. "I am Sage, and I spend my days wandering the cathedral grounds and my evenings in quiet thought. Tonight's starlight choir has drawn me from my usual meditation spot. The music is so beautiful that I felt I must share the experience with others who appreciate such wonders." And so the four friends stood together under the great dome of the cathedral, while the starlight choir sang its wordless songs of peace and beauty above them. The twilight glow wrapped around them like the most comfortable blanket ever woven. Luna felt that she was part of something magical and eternal that would continue long after this particular evening ended. The starlight beams continued to stream through the windows and sing their celestial songs. The twilight glow continued to pulse gently through every stone and beam of the ancient building. And the four friends continued to stand together in perfect contentment, sharing one of the most beautiful moments any of them would ever experience. Under the great dome of St. Paul's Cathedral, where the twilight glow was at its most beautiful and powerful, the four friends formed a comfortable circle on the smooth stone floor. Luna sat next to Nimbus with her small brown fur gleaming in the magical light. Oliver perched gracefully on a low stone ledge with his cream and brown feathers ruffled contentedly. Sage curled his elegant gray body into a perfect circle, with his tail wrapped neatly around his paws. The starlight choir continued to sing softly above them, but now the music was gentler and quieter, as if the celestial voices knew that this was a time for peaceful conversation among friends. The twilight glow seemed to approve of their gathering. The golden light grew warmer and more comforting around them, creating a cocoon of safety and peace that shut out all the noise and worry of the outside world. Within this magical circle, time seemed to move differently. Minutes felt like hours, but in the most pleasant way possible. There was no hurry, no rush, no need to be anywhere else or do anything else except enjoy this perfect moment of friendship and wonder. Oliver was the first to speak. He told them about his daily routine of keeping watch over the cathedral from his high perch in the bell tower. During the day, he could see far across the city of London. He watched people hurrying to work in the morning and returning home in the evening. He saw children playing in nearby parks and tourists taking pictures of the cathedral's beautiful exterior. He saw clouds moving across the sky and birds flying between the tall buildings. But tonight, Oliver said, something special happened while I was keeping my usual watch. Just as the starlight choir began to sing, I saw the most amazing sight. All across the city, other old buildings began to glow with their own gentle light. It was as if the cathedral's twilight glow was sending out messages of peace, and the other ancient places were answering back. For just a few moments, all of London seemed connected by threads of beautiful light. Sage spoke next about his own discoveries during the day. He had been exploring the cathedral gardens when he found a small corner where wildflowers had grown up between the cracks in an old stone wall. These were not the carefully planted flowers that the gardeners tended. These were wildflowers that had seeded themselves and grown wherever they could find a bit of soil and sunlight. There were tiny daisies with white petals and yellow centers. There were small purple violets that smelled like spring rain. There were delicate blue forget-me-nots that seemed to hold pieces of sky in their petals. What made these wildflowers special, Sage explained, was not just their beauty, but their determination to grow in difficult places. They had found ways to bloom and thrive, even though no one had planted them or watered them or cared for them in the usual way. They were like small miracles of hope and persistence, growing right there in the shadow of the great cathedral. Nimbus told his friends about the view from his favorite perch high up on the cathedral's exterior walls. From there he could watch the sun rise each morning and set each evening. He had seen thousands of sunrises and sunsets during his long life at the cathedral, but each one was different and special in its own way. Some mornings the sun came up, like a gentle golden ball floating in a sea of pink and orange clouds. Other mornings it burst through gray storm clouds like a warrior made of fire and light. The sunsets were just as varied and beautiful. Sometimes the sun sank slowly toward the horizon like a glowing ember being lowered into water. Sometimes it disappeared behind layers of clouds that turned purple and gold and crimson as the light faded. But tonight's sunset had been the most special of all because it had somehow triggered the magnificent twilight glow that now surrounded them. Luna was the last to share her story. She told her friends about her life inside the cathedral walls and all the secret passages and hidden spaces that she had discovered during her explorations. She talked about her cozy nest lined with soft materials she had collected over time. She described the different sounds the cathedral made during the day and night. During the day there were footsteps and voices and the rustle of papers and clothes. At night there were settling sounds as the old building relaxed after the day's activities. There were tiny scurrying sounds of other small creatures going about their business. There were the distant sounds of the city outside filtered through thick stone walls. But more than anything else, Luna told her friends, she loved the feeling of being part of something ancient and sacred and important. Living in the cathedral made her feel connected to all the people who had visited this place throughout its long history. She could almost feel their prayers and hopes and peaceful thoughts becoming part of the very stones around her. As each friend shared their experiences, The others listened with complete attention and understanding. There were no interruptions or arguments or attempts to change the subject. Each story was received as a precious gift and treasured accordingly. The twilight glow seemed to pulse approvingly around them with each tale, as if the cathedral itself was pleased to hear about the daily lives and observations of its resident creatures. The starlight choir above them had softened to the gentlest possible whisper of celestial music. The individual beams of light still streamed through the windows, but now they moved more slowly and peacefully, like rivers of light flowing through a land of eternal calm. The entire cathedral felt like it was settling into a state of perfect rest and contentment. As their conversation continued, the four friends found themselves speaking more and more softly. Their words became like gentle sighs that blended with the whispered music of the starlight choir and the soft humming of the twilight glow. They talked about small everyday wonders and simple pleasures. They shared observations about the changing seasons and the beauty of natural things. They spoke of gratitude for their comfortable homes and their friendship with each other. The magical light continued to wrap around them like the most comfortable blanket ever made, keeping them warm and safe and utterly at peace in their perfect circle of friendship under the protective dome of the ancient cathedral. As the night grew deeper and the stars outside became brighter and more numerous, the four friends began to feel the gentle pull of approaching sleep. The twilight glow that had been their companion throughout this magical evening was beginning to change once again. The golden light was growing softer and more soothing with each passing moment. Instead of the bright, energetic radiance that had filled the cathedral earlier, now there was a gentle luminescence like the light of a perfect full moon filtered through silk curtains. The starlight choir above them had almost finished its celestial concert. The individual beams of light that had been singing their wordless songs were now barely whispering the final notes of their performance. The music was so soft and peaceful that it seemed to blend with the natural rhythm of breathing and heartbeat, creating the most perfect lullaby that had ever been heard. Oliver was the first of the friends to feel ready for sleep. His large round eyes were growing heavy and his head began to nod gently as he perched on his stone ledge. "I think it is time for me to return to my watching place in the bell tower," he said in a voice that was already drowsy with approaching dreams. "This has been the most wonderful evening I have experienced in many years. Thank you, my dear friends, for sharing it with me." The wise old owl spread his wings and glided silently upward through the cathedral's vast interior space. He flew past the starlight beams and through the gentle glow until he reached his cozy resting place high in the bell tower. From there he could continue his gentle watch over the cathedral and the sleeping city beyond, while he dozed peacefully through the remaining hours of the night. "Sweet dreams, Oliver," Luna called softly after him. Her small voice echoed gently in the enormous space, but the echo was musical and comforting rather than harsh or startling. Sage was the next friend to seek his sleeping place. The elegant gray cat stretched his body in one long, luxurious movement that seemed to capture all the contentment and satisfaction he was feeling. He yawned delicately, and his green eyes sparkled with happiness and drowsiness in equal measure. "I believe I shall find my favorite cushioned pew and settle in for the night," Sage said as he rose gracefully to his paws. "The twilight glow has filled me with such peace that I expect to have the most wonderful dreams. Thank you both for this magical evening. I hope we will share many more such experiences together." Sage padded silently across the glowing stone floor to a wooden pew near one of the side altars. This pew had soft cushions that someone had forgotten to put away after the day's services. Sage curled himself into a perfect circle on the cushions and began to purr so softly that the sound was barely audible. His purring blended with the gentle humming of the twilight glow and the whispered music of the fading starlight choir to create the most soothing sleep sounds imaginable. Now only Luna and Nimbus remained in the center of the cathedral under the great dome. The twilight glow continued to pulse gently around them, but it was growing softer and more subdued with each pulse. Soon, it would fade to just the faintest whisper of light that would remain throughout the night like a nightlight made of captured starshine and crystallized prayers. "I suppose I should find my way back to my usual perch among the carved angels," Nimbus said with a contented sigh. "But I want you to know, little Luna, that meeting you tonight has been one of the greatest pleasures of my long life. Your wonder and delight in the cathedral's magic has reminded me of how truly blessed we are to call this sacred place our home." Nimbus spread his pearl-gray wings and flew to his familiar resting place on a stone ledge, where carved angels seemed to shelter him with their outstretched wings. He tucked his head under his wing and settled into the comfortable position he had used for countless peaceful nights. Luna was now alone in the center of the cathedral, but she did not feel lonely. The presence of her three friends was still with her, even though they had each found their sleeping places. The twilight glow continued to keep her company as she made her way back through the secret passages toward her own cozy nest. As Luna traveled through the familiar corridors between the cathedral walls, she discovered that the magical glow had followed her into her private world. The narrow passages were lit with the same gentle radiance that had filled the main cathedral space. Every stone seemed to pulse with soft light, and every corner was filled with peaceful warmth. When Luna finally reached her nest behind the great pillar, she found the most wonderful surprise waiting for her. Her small home was glowing with the most beautiful light she had ever seen. The twilight glow had somehow found its way into her secret space and transformed it into something magical beyond imagination. The bits of velvet and scraps of paper and colored threads that lined her nest all sparkled with gentle radiance. Her tiny home had become a jewel box filled with captured starlight and crystallized dreams. Luna curled up in her glowing nest and felt the most perfect contentment wash over her small body. The twilight glow wrapped around her like the softest blanket ever woven. She could hear the distant breathing of her friends sleeping peacefully in their own chosen spots throughout the cathedral. She could feel the ancient building settling into its nighttime rest with tiny creaks and sighs that spoke of centuries of peaceful slumber. As Luna closed her bright eyes and began to drift toward sleep, she knew that this night would remain in her memory forever. She had discovered magic and wonder beyond anything she had ever imagined. She had made true friends who understood and appreciated the same beautiful things that filled her own heart with joy. She had found her place in the great family of creatures who called the cathedral home. The twilight glow gradually faded to the gentlest possible whisper of light, just enough to keep any shadows at bay but soft enough to encourage the sweetest dreams. Under this celestial blanket of peace and protection, Luna and all her friends drifted into the most restful and healing sleep they had ever known. And if you listen very carefully on quiet evenings near St. Paul's Cathedral, you might still hear the echo of their gentle breathing, and the soft flutter of wings, and the distant melody of that magical twilight glow that continues to embrace all peaceful souls with its comforting presence night after blessed night.